Welcome to Listenwise News Bites, where you can hear stories from the news that are specially selected for young listeners. I'm Monica Brady-Myerov, a public radio reporter and the founder of Listenwise, an award-winning online listening resource used by teachers. We have a curated collection of more than 2,000 podcasts from sources such as NPR and other producers of high-quality audio storytelling. In this episode, protests are happening in cities around the country following the death of a black man in police custody. And we hear from the grocery store cashiers who are still going to work every day during the pandemic. And listen for a fun way to remind people to keep 6 feet apart. First, a story about protests over police treatment of blacks in several cities around the country.
Protests continued in cities across the country after the death of an unarmed black man while in police custody in Minneapolis. After unrest overnight, more officials are imposing curfews from Louisville, Kentucky to Denver, Colorado. NPR's Leila Fadel joins us now from Minneapolis. Leila, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us what's happening today after events across the country overnight.
Well, we're seeing protests in dozens of cities from New York to Los Angeles, and people are out with the same message, that they want real change to a police system that they say does not treat everyone equally. Here in Minneapolis, there were people out in droves with brooms and buckets trying to clean up their communities, getting donations to rebuild as buildings smoldered. People sifted through the rubble of their businesses. And some believe what Governor Tim Walz said today, which is that he thinks outside agitators are sowing chaos and destroying local community-owned businesses and landmarks. But it's really unclear what's happening overnight. Walz is referencing unconfirmed suspicions that maybe white supremacists or drug cartels are involved from outside the state. Meanwhile, you have Attorney General William Barr claiming it's anarchists from the left. Unclear what evidence there is for any of these claims. I've spoken to protesters with these suspicions, but also protesters that are angry and desperate, and they don't feel protected by law enforcement.
But obviously there is still a lot of anger over George Floyd, who, once again, an African-American man. There was videotape of a white officer, former officer, of course, holding his knee on his neck for many, many minutes. So what are people saying about that today?
I was just at a protest on the south side of Minneapolis where they were chanting, "Arrest all four." They don't want just that one former officer, Derek Chauvin, who was in that video, arrested. They want all 4 former officers arrested and convicted. And they don't want the focus of this moment to be on looting and fires, but on injustice that has gone on for generations. I spoke to Keisha Mitchell, and she has diabetes, which puts her at more risk of getting really sick with COVID-19. But she was out, and this is what she said.
I made the choice to give up my life knowing that this is so important. People are being harassed, we're dying, and we're afraid to be in our own communities. People with college educations. I have a degree, and when I am stopped, I am afraid. Never done anything wrong to anyone.
You almost forget that there is a pandemic going on here, and it's a pandemic that has hit black communities hardest, and so they're taking huge risks.
Well, Governor Tim Walz said that he's fully mobilizing the National Guard. That's something that's never been done in the state's history. Could you just describe what is his tone today and that of other officials who are speaking?
You know, the tone is different today. Desperation, some anger. They want the burning of their cities to stop. A lot of this destruction is happening to black-owned businesses, indigenous-owned businesses, other businesses owned by people of color. Walz is saying that what happened last night was not about justice, but about chaos, and the 2 mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul echoing that sentiment. This is St. Paul's mayor saying everyone has the right to be angry.
Unfortunately, there are also those among us who would seek to use this moment, who would seek to use his death as an excuse, as a cover, to agitate for the destruction of those same communities that have been most traumatized by George Floyd's death.
That is reporting by NPR's Leila Fadel in Minneapolis. Leila, thank you.
Thank you.
These protests are so emotional and moving. They make me think about what I can do to help end police brutality against black people. How might you help? Next, a story about some unsung heroes of this pandemic. Cashiers in gas stations, big box stores, and your local grocery store who are risking their health to make sure we can be supplied with the things we need.
America is stocking up and hunkering down, which is made possible by grocery store workers. They're putting in back-breaking hours so that people can stay fed and supplied. They've been designated as emergency workers in some states, and on Friday, Safeway said it would give employees a $2 hourly raise. Yesterday, we called up Michelle Lee. She's a cashier at a Safeway in Alexandria, Virginia, and she just got off work, and I asked her how she was doing.
I'm doing all right. It's been really busy today and my back is hurting a little bit, but I'm doing all right.
When you say your back is hurting, tell me a little bit about what your day looks like.
So it's been really, really busy. The lines are really long. Customers are buying $200, $300, $400 worth of groceries, and it's constant. It's nonstop, and they're buying products that will last a long time that aren't perishable.
What's it like when you see all these people swamping the grocery stores? How does it make you feel?
I feel like sometimes I can't do enough. I want to do more, or I want to be able to keep the lines down and check the customers out faster. But I've realized that I can only take care of one customer at a time.
Have they been empathetic to how you've been feeling?
Yes, quite a few times today, the customers have told me, thank you for working, thank you for being here. And that's been going on all week pretty much. They've been telling all of my coworkers, thank you, because they know that we're out there on the front lines taking care of them, and we're putting ourselves at risk.
I was about to say, you are putting yourself at risk. You have to be around people, lots of them, for many hours at a time. Are you worried about that?
Yes, I'm a little concerned because I know that I actually probably check out at least 200 customers a day. And we're wearing gloves, we're using hand sanitizer, we're washing our hands frequently. We haven't been wearing masks. But from my understanding, Safeway is supposed to be putting in some plexiglass, hopefully in the next week or so, to help divide us from the customers a little bit, because we can't be 6 feet away from the customers. They're about 2 feet away from us.
I'm just curious, you've worked for Safeway for over 30 years. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I've never seen anything like this. Through every snowstorm, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen the shelves this empty. Even during 9/11, I didn't see anything like this. We cannot keep up with what the customers are buying. And the shelves are almost bare. We usually can recoup in 1 or 2 days. There's no recouping. They're buying the groceries so fast, we can't even fill the shelves up, and we have a lot of holes.
Do you feel like you're an emergency worker on the front lines? Because that's certainly how you're perceived.
Yes, I do, because people need to eat. You have to eat to live. So they have to come in the grocery store to feed their children and feed their families. And so, yes, I believe that we're on the front lines just like the doctors and the nurses, just a different specialty.
Well, I want to thank you very much for what you're doing right now. We all appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Michelle Lee has worked for Safeway for more than 30 years, and she spoke to us from Alexandria, Virginia.
Wow! Hearing that she checks out 200 customers a day really makes me appreciate everything she and other essential workers are doing so that others can stay safe. What can you do to protect essential workers? And now it's time for some weird news. Keep your distance and enjoy the drawings.
Good morning, I'm Rachel Martin. If you've been out and about, you know many of your neighbors, some of them still need reminders about keeping their social distance. A mom in Winter Park, Florida is doing her part with chalk drawings on her sidewalk. Casey Drake has been recreating colorful childhood characters to share advice. There's Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz who says, "There's no place like home. No, seriously, stay home." And Rapunzel up in her tower. "Oh, you're tired of social distancing? That's cute."
Thanks to our partner NPR and to Scott Holmes for our theme music. That's it for the Listenwise News Bites podcast this week. For more stories from the news selected for young listeners, go to www.listenwise.com and sign up for free. And subscribe to this podcast for our weekly shows. Happy listening.